și bine ați venit la
Welcome to the second edition of the National Festival regarding best practices in using data for the best decisions for the benefit of the child. Now, this event has been organized together with the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection within the Data for Impact project, which is funded by the USAID. Before opening this event, let me tell you something. For Romanian, you use channel 2. For English, channel 1. Channel 1. So if there are technical issues, please call on the technician, okay, who are in the technician's booth, right? All right, so I'd also like to tell you that we're live on 3 digital platforms, and namely in Romanian, on the Facebook page of USAID Moldova, and also on the Facebook page of the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection. And in English, it is broadcasted on YouTube. Now, in order to open officially the event, I'll give the floor to Vasile Kushka. He is the State Secretary at the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection. Good morning, honored Mr. Brian and honored Ms. Gheorghe, colleagues. I'm honored to participate at this event, to open this fair. Well, it is the second edition. It is a tradition when every year, together with you, as part of the Data for Impact project funded by USAID in Moldova, we organize this fair. The fair of best practice in using data. Now, for us as the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection, data are key. I don't think we need to explain you why. We we understand how important they are as part of the reforms that we are promoting. I mean, the reform of social assistance system. During the year, we've been asking, and we still ask, for data, information. We are always preparing different forms in Word, in Excel, circulars, requesting this data from you. And, there are different challenges because the processing of this data in various districts, municipalities, is done differently. So we need to have some systems in place, some procedures in place which are very well established and approved and clear for all stakeholders, so that we can actually process and then use the data. Because for the decision making at the central level, when you promote policies, and this is our prerogative as ministry to promote policies, so data for us are very important for calculations, for justification, for the promotion of laws. So the importance of data cannot be underestimated. So, as part of our reform of social assistance system, we have an objective, general objective, which refers to the digitization of processes in the social assistance system. We have a number of IT systems in the ministry, in the subordinated institutions, which are at the stage of evaluation, analysis, re-engineering. Other IT systems are being developed, piloted, and here I mean the IT system regarding the protection of the child. This is an IT system which is being developed, and actually we're now at the piloting stage in some districts, and this process is due to the support that we received from the Data for Impact project funded by the USAID. Well, this IT system, we hope that it will facilitate the activity, it will ease the activity here at the ministry, and you, those who are in the front line at the district level, in order to digitize the processes, in order to have data, to be able to report the data, and not least, of all this data, of all this information, we need to have and to be able to help the beneficiaries, the families with children, and not least, to be able to contribute to improving the social protection system and the protection of the child. So, I really hope that this fair, this tradition will endure, will continue. Camelia, we trust that within the project we will be able to continue. And, even this gala, this fair that has been organized for the benefit of all of us, to motivate us, to incentivize us to participate in these activities, this will increase the involvement of the territorial social assistance structures and of the staff involved in this area. Thank you, good luck, and I really hope that next year we'll have the same people meet again with new accomplishments and with new, successes. With new success in relation to social assistance component and good results in the reform that will start January 1st. Thank you. Thank you, State Secretary. And going further, it is my big pleasure to give the floor to Jeff Bryan. He is the director of the USAID mission to Moldova.
De stat Cușcă, stimați colegi și parteneri.
Colleagues and partners here, physically and online, it is an honor to be here today at the opening of the Fair of Good Practices in Using Data. So let me thank the partners from the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection, National Agency for Social Assistance, and the territorial structures for social assistance for the organization of this fair and for the good cooperation. USAID supports the programs which yield positive results and long-standing results for the citizens of Moldova through the Data for Impact project. We are working together with the government of Moldova to collect, analyze, and use data to improve the livelihood or the life of children. Today's fair is a wonderful opportunity to demonstrate and celebrate the results of this cooperation. The use of information and databases is essential in all areas because we can have improvement only when you have data which shows us where we need to intervene and change. The full information help us direct or target our programs towards areas of critical importance for citizens, to establish objectives, to measure progress, to adapt. Also, it contributes to the transparency of local public authorities, and such public authorities allows them to adjust their support to the needs of the people. Because of that, we encourage all our partners to use data for specific actions and for an impact in their activity. This approach is central for the initiatives such as Data for Impact and Change the Way We Care. These are programs that make sure that all children in Moldova live in protective and loving families without violence and danger. This is not an easy objective to achieve. The enormous impact because of the resettlement of children, because of the unprovoked and brutal invasion of Russia against the peaceful people of Ukraine. This is undeniable and it's difficult to estimate. The rate of poverty among children in Moldova has increased, and the economic opportunities, limited economic opportunities, are forcing parents to leave the country, leaving their children behind. In order to tackle to address these challenges, the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection has initiated an ambitious agenda of reform, which puts the child in the center of these changes. USAID appreciates the efforts of the ministry team and of the specialists from the whole country to promote the reform in the area of social protection. Let me thank the social assistants who are here present today. What you see today here displayed is just a fraction of your labor, of your dedication, of your work to improve the lives of children and of women in this country. Thank you for being here with us, and thank you for making this event so special. Thank you. Thank you so very much, Chair Brian, for the unwavering support provided to children by USAID, provided by USAID to children for many years. This is just one of the multiple projects that the USAID provides and implements in Moldova, and we hope that it is not the last one. Now, let me tell you something. I'm Camelia Gheorghe. I am the Chief of Party of the Data for Impact project. This is a project funded by USAID. This is a project which has the purpose to strengthen the capacity of the government and of its partners from the central and local level to know how to collect better quality data, how to analyze, how to interpret them, and how to use them in order to make the most informed decisions, best decisions for children in adversity, but also in relation to other vulnerable groups. So this festival, this fair, it has as an objective to showcase the best practice in promoting the culture of data to the benefit of children in Moldova and exchange of experience between districts. You have seen this gallery of examples of usage of this data for such decisions to the favor of in the interest of the child. For this time, for this edition of the fair, we had Rizina, Lova, and Drokia, as well as Chișinău. Thank you so very much. When we started this project in 2020, but also prior to that, in the previous project, Measure Evaluation, which was also funded by USAID, we were often asked, what do you mean data? Something so abstract. How can data change the life of a child in adversity? Well, it was a bit hard to explain in words. We've tried to use tables diagrams. We've shown analysis, but we were only partially successful. So we today have tried differently through a movie which is called From Data to Positive Changes in the Lives of the Child. We have done this movie in order to show you the pathway and to give some major highlights to the specialists and decision makers from data to impact in the life of the child. Let us watch this short video.
Datele ajută la identificarea grupurilor vulnerabile de copii pentru luarea unor decizii mai bune în beneficiul lor. Cum influențează datele colectate viața copiilor? Asistenții sociali colectează date despre copiii aflați în dificultate dintr-o anumită comunitate. Ulterior, aceste date sunt transmise la Direcția de Asistență Socială. Astfel, instituția dispune de date din toate localitățile din raion. După cumularea datelor, specialiștii și decidenții din domeniul asistenței sociale, ocrotirii sănătății, menținerii ordinii publice, educației și primarii localităților se întrunesc în ședințe unde analizează datele și identifică problemele cu care se confruntă diverse grupuri de copii, dar și cauzele apariției acestor probleme. Pentru a rezolva problemele identificate, se propun soluții și se iau decizii în beneficiul copilului. Pasul următor constă în aplicarea deciziilor luate, ca de exemplu, dezvoltarea de servicii noi și consolidarea serviciilor existente, implementarea programelor de prevenire a separării copilului de familie, dezvoltarea abilităților parentale, instruirea personalului sau alocarea de resurse financiare suplimentare pentru asigurarea durabilității serviciilor. Ca urmare a deciziilor luate în baza analizei datelor, copiii trăiesc într-un mediu familial sigur și protector. Părinții dispun de abilități mai bune de îngrijire a copiilor, iar specialiștii răspund prompt și eficient la necesitățile copiilor. Astfel, datele ne ajută să luăm decizii corecte, să argumentăm nevoia de prestații și servicii sociale, să planificăm eficient resursele și să îmbunătățim procesele de lucru. Valorificați puterea datelor în beneficiul copilului.
Going further, I hope this movie convinced you. Going further, let me invite here my colleague, Alex Collins, from the US. She is a senior technical advisor in child protection in the D4I project. Alex is a social worker. She has a master's degree in social assistance and public health with a large experience in social development projects funded by USAID in more than 15 countries. Alex, please, you have the floor.
Bună ziua. My name is Alex Collins. I'm so pleased to be with you today to share some of the latest on reaching global standards for measuring progress on children's care, and particularly care systems for children. I'd like to thank our representatives from USAID as well as from the ministry for their opening remarks, and most importantly to our Chief of Party, Camille Gorge, for opening this important event. I'm a senior technical advisor with the Data for Impact project and a social worker by training. For more than a decade, I've had the opportunity and privilege to support different US government-funded projects in a variety of countries around the world. Data for Impact, as some of you know, and as mentioned by Camelia, is funded by USAID and led by the Carolina Population Center out of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. It is led and facilitated in a consortium with partners of Palladium, JSI, ICF Macro, and Tulane University. And since it started in 2018, we've worked in over 33 countries. DFRI strengthens local capacity to generate and use high-quality health and social data for strategic decisions on policy and programming. At the national, subnational, and community levels, we investigate program effectiveness. We integrate gender across our activities. We support adaptive management and learn from evidence. One of the ways that Data for Impact accomplishes this work is through the production of global public goods. These are related to data collection, management, and use for childcare and protection. By global good, we mean a tool or product that is freely available, reusable, adaptable, and can meet the needs of a variety of contexts and locations. And one of our most recent activities or global good that we've produced is a completed review of tools and frameworks that are an attempt to standardize or bring us together in terms of how we are measuring care systems for children. In this presentation, my hope is to summarize some of these latest tools and approaches, a few of which have been used in Moldova, and close with key messages about what this means for future use. But most importantly, why do we need to be reaching this level of systematic measurement? First and foremost, measurement, as mentioned by our previous speakers, helps track and make needed improvements so that governments, civil society, and non-government actors can ensure that the quality of care they are providing meets standards and that children are ultimately promoted in their well-being and positive development. Consistent and comparable data on these services and their outcomes for children are crucial for states and development partners to assess progress, ensure accountability, identify where they can improve, inform decision-making, and monitor compliance with domestic and international standards. 196 countries are signatories to the UN's Convention on the Rights of the Child, and there are more than 16 different global commitments and declarations related to rights-based childcare systems. And yet there are no globally accepted metrics for measuring progress on these declarations and commitments. For example, there is no global definition of what we mean by residential care, and this leads to many different interpretations of the UNCRC and how we can come together to show true progress. Signing on to these conventions obliges countries to ensure that children are not separated unnecessarily from their families and that they know where and with whom children live so that they can be protected. And this reporting is needed to determine progress toward achievement of these obligations, and especially the SDGs, the specific goals of which you can see here. But the importance of this systematic measurement is most often overshadowed by the challenges that we face and contribute to a lack of data globally on children in alternative care. These challenges range from differences in how we define key aspects of the system, such as residential care. It complicates how well we can quantify or accurately quantify the number of children in these types of care. And in addition, there can be a reluctance to collect data on children in countries where the state's role might be viewed differently in terms of provision of care, and even more reticence to report on the situation of children with disabilities or from different ethnic or minority groups due to stigma and discrimination. Relatedly, the data collection on these groups can be controversial, depending on a history in a country of misuse of such data, which in certain cases have preventative legislation put in place to protect these marginalized groups. Data for Impact's review of the existing tools and frameworks builds on recent and forthcoming reviews, as you can see here. And we employed a mixed methods approach, looking at the literature and primary data collection through consultations with key stakeholders to better understand what was newest and coming out in the field and to understand the landscape. And we employed 3 principles for this review. Most importantly, that any tool or framework that would come out as a recommended one for measuring care systems strengthening was government-led in its application, that it could be contextually sensitive because the interventions being put into place for children and families must respond to specific needs, and that as much as possible measures were harmonized. And the results focused on 3 country-level tools, as well as 5 regional and global measurement initiatives. And the 2 that you can see highlighted here have been implemented to some extent in Moldova. The first is the Tracking Progress Initiative with foundation funding and led by a global network, the Better Care Network and Save the Children. It's been applied in 3 countries and involved consultations with more than 160 individuals from all regions, representing governments, NGOs, and different UN agencies. And the idea is that there are 6 surveys grouped by theme that can be done in teams and led by government to look at the need for alternative care, the extent of gatekeeping systems, and whether the existing forms of care meet minimum standards and the best interests of the child. Next, Measure Evaluations tool, which came out in a similar time frame to Tracking Progress, employs a systemic approach. And you can see here with the different colored gears or wheels, the 6 main components of the care system, ranging from leadership and governance to service delivery mechanisms and the workforce. This tool has been used in 4 countries, including in Moldova in 2018. And government stakeholders are critical to the self-assessment process. It crosses across all of the domains of system strengthening, including a comprehensive 627 questions that are applied in groups. And as you can see from this figure here, from the application in Moldova, the different system components show the distribution of how people responded to the level of strength for each of them, and evenly split, as you can see, with service delivery mechanisms in the bottom, indicating a more positive assessment, as opposed to, at the time, workforce was a bit trending more negatively, indicating a need for intervention on that system component. Lastly, among these country-level tools is Changing the Way We Care's National Care Assessment Toolkit. It builds off of the Tracking Progress Initiative as well as the Measure tool and involves a framework, guidance, and training resources. Here also government leadership is essential, and the tool is made of 10 domains across the care system with 100 questions, and customization of the questions encouraged, and produces visualizations that you can see here. The regional and global level measurement initiatives that came up in our review ranged from survey data to data compilation in databases, as well as emerging efforts to produce an international statistical classification of alternative care. Survey data is critically important, especially in countries where there are weaker administrative data systems. With the inclusion of certain questions in these point-in-time surveys, the analysis can aid us in knowing about children's outcomes related to their living arrangements, the influence of those arrangements on their vulnerability and overall well-being. For example, understanding poverty driving child vulnerability and placement in residential care, these surveys can, to an extent, provide baseline and target indicators. Household surveys like USAID's Demographic and Health Surveys, as well as UNICEF's Multiple Indicator Cluster Survey, can enable us to understand trends at the national level and aggregate them to understand better at regional and global levels. USAID's recently completed a child vulnerability model, which is a new option to include in country surveys that includes questions on children's living arrangements, and UNICEF's mixed tool has 2 relevant indicators on living arrangements, and these are emerging as being very powerful for seeing trends within countries and beyond. The longest standing and perhaps most well-known means of understanding these data over time and across countries is the TransMoney database, established in 1992. It collects and analyzes data across regional indicators and is limited, unfortunately, to 30 countries, but represents probably the biggest progress we have toward reaching standard definitions among participating national statistical offices. Some of the progress has been supported by work in this specific region on a statistical manual for a core set of child protection indicators. It's a refinement of the TransMoney database and includes 21 indicators across alternative care and is really meant to guide national statistical offices and others so that we can reach a level of comparability. Another very important initiative in the region launched in 2020 is Eurochild and UNICEF's Data Care Project. It has the goal of aggregating reporting from across the EU member states and the UK to inform comparable benchmarks and indicators for monitoring progress on child protection reforms, including transition from residential to family-based care. And lastly, and perhaps most importantly, is this progress toward an international statistical classification of alternative care. This is a collaboration between UNICEF and the Conference of European Statisticians. The task force includes a variety of countries and will go through an extensive and iterative review and expert consultation process expected in 2025. And this will be at the same level as international statistical classifications of labor and others that you may be familiar with. And this is the first time that this kind of work has been done in our area of work with alternative care and child care systems. So to conclude, standardizing metrics for progress in care system strengthening allows us to make these comparisons within a country and at higher levels. There's growing global interest in generating good data that can be compared to support informed decision-making and equitable inclusion of children. The tools and frameworks D4I reviewed, according to our 3 principles, took 2 distinct approaches: qualitative, where we ask questions around what's going on within the different system components, and this is useful for national strategic planning and identifying where we can start in taking initiative to make progress. And also a quantitative approach, where measures derived from administrative data can help us truly determine impact. For example, accurately showing an increase in the number of children who are living in a form of family-based care. Getting to these standards requires recognition of the fact that just like there are no perfect data, there are no perfect tools, but improvement comes with use. And we can see across a variety of initiatives at many levels, including in Moldova, that there's progress toward a common understanding and purpose. Without the work of practitioners, social workers, social assistants, program administrators, these measurement initiatives would not be possible. And I would like to thank you all for what you are doing to measure, but most importantly, make an impact on the lives of children and families. Mulțumesc!
Mulțumim tare mult, Alex.
Thank you, Alex. I loved the end of your presentation, which tells us that there is no perfect data. And we can improve them and improve their quality. The more we use them, the better they are. When you use the data, you can notice various quality issues. We can notice the fact that certain data are lacking when we need to make a decision. Well, data are not perfect. The tools for measurement are not perfect, but the more we use them, the better they are. Thank you, Alex, so much. And now, let us have 8 minutes of... oh, here's the Minister. Welcome, Minister. Yeah, let us use this couple of minutes to ask questions and clarify certain aspects that Alex presented. Who wants to break the ice? Good morning. Alex, thank you for the presentation. I have, let me thank here the Data for Impact project to change the reality of this country when we talk about data collection, processing and use of the data to the benefit of not just the child, but also of the beneficiaries of social assistance. And there's some issues or things that maybe Alex could clarify for us. What are the challenges for a social worker, community worker to collect and use the data? And what would be the main challenges that we will feel or have while we use the international tools or developed at the international level in developing policies based on evidence? Thank you very much, and all the best to Data for Impact. Thank you so much, Anastasia. Alex, if you can maybe elaborate on that.
Thank you so much for your question. As a social worker myself, I know when I was working in case management, the biggest challenge for me was when the system I was expected to report on wasn't working in the moment I was sitting with a child or family. And so I think when we think about the functionality of a system, we have to have the worker in mind first. Importantly, can it be used offline if it's a digital system? Is all of the data included in a form absolutely necessary for decisions, not collecting data for data's sake, but that some action will truly come of it? And then also thinking in terms of the individual, what motivates him or her to collect data? How can we incentivize this? And I think the Share Fair is an incredible example of how we are rewarding amongst our colleagues and giving recognition to how important data collection, but more importantly, data use is. And I think some of the progress that I've seen in this field is taking it beyond looking at analysis at high levels, like at the national level, but looking all the way down to the worker or even down to community level, where you're reporting to your clients, to who you serve, on how is our community doing in terms of meeting the needs of children and families, and making it a very community-driven process. I think that responds to one part of your question, Professor.
Anastasia, mulțumită?
Anastasia. All right. Anyone else? Any other questions or comments to what Alex presented?
Practici internaționale.
He's talked about international best practice in measuring progress, which is there to help us to make decisions for better care of the child. And I was asking myself, while you were presenting, Alex, what would be the benefit of a country such as Moldova to use this international standards in measuring progress aimed at strengthening care system for the child. So what's the benefit for Moldova? What's the benefit for Moldova? What's in for Moldova?
There's always that tension between the international standard and how well that serves the needs of a country. The needs of the country coming first and foremost in terms of its accountability to children and families. One benefit, I think, of looking to these global standards is the ability to tap into learning from around the world. Some things that are being done here are incredibly beneficial to places that have much further to go to reach the level of strength of a system. And so I think the benefit of global standards is really the collaborative process that leads to their development. This is all contributed learning from country level.
Mulțumesc foarte mult, Alex. Mai sunt
Any other questions? Any other comments? Don't jump one on top of the other with the questions. All right. Now, if there is no comments, I'm so happy to welcome the presence of Alexei Buzu, the Minister of Labor and Social Protection. I see that he's looking at our gallery. He's in love with data, and he understands a lot the value of data in order to make correct decisions for children and for other people in adversity. Minister, it's a privilege for us to support your efforts and the efforts of the ministry and of the system as a whole that the minister leads in this complex and complicated reform, restart reform on who needs a lot of data and evidence in order to go into the right direction. Minister, if you can tell us a couple of words, you are invited here on stage. Camille, colleagues, good morning. Thank you. I said it. In English, there's this saying, what you don't count doesn't count. In Moldova, we have this problem that many children, many elderly, many people with disabilities, we don't see them. And if you see them, we don't understand. We don't fully comprehend their needs. And I think today's event and what we're doing with you is to try and shed more light. Because if we don't have an honest conversation related to children poverty, elderly poverty, if we are not going to have an honest discussion about the impact of our activities, well then every time we'll fail. We'll fail in relation to these people. As you said, the restart reform, among the many things that it wants to accomplish, is that there's one that, I have this ambition that the area of social assistance to be an area where management should be of the highest level. In years, or through the years, when someone would want to recruit someone and asking, where did this guy work? Would him or her worked? He worked in that agency. Okay, he is a great manager. Let's take him or her. Well, that's the ambition. Only in this way, we can solve the problem of poverty of children, of elderly, and solve the problem of marginalization of children with disabilities. So let's do this. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you so much, Minister. As always, a pleasure to have you amongst us, be it a technical discussion or at such events. It's a big pleasure, and we are with you from the very first days to accompany you and support you in this very complicated and complex restart reform, but many other reforms which were started by yourself in the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection, which has a very comprehensive mandate. Well, now, let me invite here Mr. Igor Kishka. He is the head of Policy for the Protection of the Rights of the Child and Families with Children Department from the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection. He will show us, and then together with my colleague Henko from the Data for Impact project, he will show us how, on the basis of some technology of analysis and visualization of data, the ministry and the department he leads, how were they able to have the right decisions regarding children in adversity and children that are separated from parents, starting with the example of the annual statistical report, CER 103. Igor, go ahead. Hi, everyone. Honored Minister, honored audience, colleagues, I'm happy to be here at this event, at this share fair of good practice. Second edition is the second year in a row when we meet with you and we talk about the importance of data quality and to talk about the data in general. I'm happy and proud to be here and to take stock of the successes that we've had during 1 year, because throughout the year, together with you, daily, almost daily, we worked with data, figures, which in turn contributed to the welfare of the child. Now, and I thank you so much, because with the help of your project, you are strengthening the system of child protection. So today we will talk about some technologies that we, as central authority in the area of child protection, which is the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection, some technology that we want to employ. But before talking about the IT solution that we want in place, and which for sure will make your job easier and specifically will contribute to putting the child first, let me have this short presentation and tell you how did we actually start using data and why they matter for us as central authority in the protection of the child. As the Minister said, one of our objectives is to reduce children's poverty. So, colleagues, you all know that we in this country, we were able, we have this well-developed laws in the area of child protection, which are in line with international standards. Together with you, we're able to promote Law 140 for the protection of children in adversity and children separated from parents. And in this law, there is this very good stipulation, provision that we have to have data. Not just in this law, but also in the normative framework. They say we have to have data. So we're talking about the fact that we need to have different registers regarding keeping track of children in adversity, registries to keep track of children who have a custodian. We have to have a registry regarding adoption and many, many other. So we know that we have to have registers. We know that we have to collect data. But the mere collection of figures is not enough. Every figure has to be understood in full. Behind figures, you have to have clear indicators. And what do you actually want to get from the figure? You need to know exactly why and how will these figures help us. It's not just about collecting them, because anytime you collect figures, you make a decision. So today I'm going to show you some examples, recent examples, at the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection in the area of child protection. So legal framework, and then you have that report, annual statistical report, CER, so loved by all of us. Those with more experience, you remember how we started the journey. Very cumbersome journey. A process of data collection. Manual data collection. You collect data from various sources, you put them somewhere on paper, and then you don't get the real figure. So this was such a mess. So we were saying we have data, but back in those times we didn't have high quality data. We didn't have data which were talking to us. So behind those data, we should realize that you have children. It's not data, but it's children. So things have evolved from a Word format with a lot of guidelines, wrong guidelines. We have to acknowledge that. Together with you, we've done assessments based on your proposals, suggestions. So during many years, we have created a database with clearly targeted indicators, well-established indicators, which are offered to you every year. So this database is offered to you every year, and you can introduce data. You can input the data without making calculations, without making estimates. So this is still quite a bureaucratic process and cumbersome process, but together with you we will do our utmost to have results, because I'm telling you, we talk about the child and the interest of the child. We started with a manual format, we are in an Excel format, and now we have to make one more step. We have to make another step. Before getting to the IT system in the area of child protection, which will unify, join all of the database, which will have an interoperability of all of the IT systems of the state. But in that systems, you have personalized data. But you all know that we need to have data that have to be accessible, that have to be made available to the public, to institutions, authorities. We also have the law, which doesn't allow us to issue private data. So we gather this data in the 103 format, the CR 103, and now we have the idea that many of you, those who worked with refugee children during the current year, we've accumulated data in and using the IT solution, which is Power BI. You know very well this solution. You know how easy it is to work with the system. Maybe not all, but we will make an effort and we'll do trainings for all of the involved staff in data collection. And soon, on the 18th, I think we'll have one more training regarding data collection for the annual statistical report. And we will focus a lot on professional development. Now, what we want to achieve is to use this Power BI solution. We've worked with the G4I team to develop the IT solution, because this solution, it can very, very easily show us data analytics, show us how things are in various areas, specifically child protection. We can measure data, we can make analysis, we can have disaggregated data. So these are just some ideas of how this solution Power BI looks like. We can see clearly permanently the situation per district, the situation, real situation from the data that come from you. My colleague Oleg will give you more information about it. This is how the solution looks like. Again, many of you know the solution. You've contributed to provision of data on the refugee children during this year. So, in order to be able to work with this IT solution, we focus on data. But data have to be very well disaggregated with pre-established indicators and well-determined goals. Now, let me show you some examples of statistical data that are the source for decision making. You all know that in Moldova you have a large number of children who are in custody. So it's 28,000, more than 28,000 children. According to the statistical data, we, as central authority in the protection of child, we understand now that half of these children have some sort of protection, but the other, what do we do with them? We have to make the people aware. We have to make aware the parents to strive to do so that when legal representatives of the children make a decision to leave the locality without the child, we need to make them aware that this child needs protection, that this child needs a representative, and to know that there's no risk to the welfare of the child. So, as a solution, during the year, we were able to approve the normative framework which regulated this area. This is the type of protection which is guardianship and a custodian. But practically, we have approved those tools, those annexes, which were difficult for people to fill in. We have uniformed them, made them uniform. They are one form, and every local and territorial guardian organization contribute to giving the child protection and offer the protection to the child. When we talk about the number of children in foster care or in family care, we, the Ministry of Social Protection, has an enormous responsibility to come up with proposals to develop the law, the state budget law. So that we need to know what is the number of children in foster care. How many children do we have in the institutional system, and how many children have to be de-institutionalized? In this regard, the data that we accumulate, they contribute to the planning when we talk about the creation of new social services, or as appropriate, the strengthening of the services. Or another example is when we can, and our developer partners, support Moldova, and they give help, resources, and there are certain financial resources for benefits, for salaries, such as was the experience UNHCR, UNICEF during the last year and this year. But we also need data. We need to show our developer partners true high-quality data that are also planned and are for the benefit of the child. As an example, we have the daily allowance for the child, which has to be planned annually by the Ministry of Finance. But at your proposal, or at the proposal of all key stakeholders that are responsible for the child. And as the Minister mentioned, as the State Secretary mentioned as well, we have an ambitious reform in the area of social assistance. The social assistance area comprises the protection of the child area. As part of this reform, together with the ministry team, expert team, yourselves, we contributed to formalizing Law 256, which started this reform in the area of social assistance. In this reform, as I was telling you, this reform is gradual, and it will have an effect during the years. So now we want to strengthen the child protection system. We need that the foster care and the social assistance, family support for children, for families with children, is part of the package of services. We want that these services be fully funded from the state budget, so that those 1,100 children who are in this system of services benefit to the fullest from the protection which is offered by the country. At the same time, we understand, as I was telling you, that we have a certain number of children, about 700 in the residential care, and we understand that if you put the child first, according to the international best practice, the child needs to have a family, live in a family, and then for that will come with proposals as part of this reform to organize and to develop about 150 foster care services, so that we have the possibility to contribute to the deinstitutionalization of about 400 children. And again, when I talk about these figures, it's not just figures. We understand that every figure, every child, there's a child behind the figure. We understand the needs of the child. So those services which need to be developed, they need to develop on the relying on the needs of the child. Another proposal, which is quite an ambitious proposal, is to recruit 280 specialists in the area of child protection at the level of local guardianship authority. This is an activity which is not just that we want to do it, but we're actually accomplishing this. You know that this activity from January 1st, 2024 will be in full process of realization with the support of development partners. We've identified money so that we can recruit the 50 specialists in the area of child protection, and then later on gradually we can recruit the other colleagues, focusing on the area of professional development, so that later on these specialists will be responsible for this domain. An clear example that I can provide to you. So, recent decisions based on data from our ministry, anytime we say that we need to have specialized services for various categories of children, we understand. And it's not that we understand, but we started to pilot in the districts which are part of the future agency of social assistance. In different districts, we will have foster services for children with severe disabilities. And here we have the support of the project Changing the Way We Care, which will contribute to deinstitutionalization of children from these districts. At the same time, we will develop the specialized services for children with disabilities, but at the same time, these are quite young children. And we need to understand what are the needs of the children that we need to cover, and we need to understand what are the capacities of foster parents and what skills these people should have in order to live up to the challenges when you have these requests for the child to be placed in such services. There's also a phenomenon in this country and a very big problem regarding children in the conflict with law, children with complex emotional problems. In this regard, we are saying firmly that this is a loophole, it's a gap. We don't have specialized services for children in conflict with law. Our services are not tailored to the needs of these children, but we have the experience, we have the possibility to create the services. So, in the district of Orhei, in the city of Orhei, we will pilot foster care services for children with behavioral problems or with complex emotional problems, to understand exactly what are the needs of these children in order to promptly answer to the needs of the kids. Okay, colleagues, I gave you an overview of where we started, where we are at, what we need to do, or what we want to do, and all of that is around data. Data have to be high quality. We have to have robust data. Only have this kind of data, we will be proud of our results. We, for sure, can say that the Data for Impact project, the Changing the Way We Care, our developer partners, they contribute clearly to us obtaining the results, specifically in the area of child protection, so that we, as I was saying, we would live up to the international standards. So, if last year, with the support of the D4I, we were saying we were able to approve a concept for the IT system in the area of child protection. Now, with the support of the D4I project, we are able to make enormous steps, develop the regulation for the organization and functioning of the child protection system, and we really hope that this regulation, this government decree, will be approved soon. And also, I hope that you will accept this IT system in the area of child protection, which will make your life easier. But again, it will make children happier, children from the regions that you administer. I'll stop here, and I'll allow my colleague to continue the presentation and talk to you about this Power BI solution and about our intention that we plan in the area of data use.
Thank you very much, Igor. A very good lobbying for data. Good morning. Indeed, what I'm going to show you is that information system that will be launched next year and currently is being piloted. So this is an application we are talking about that is used by the ministry and by other decision makers to visualize and analyze data. This tool has been possible only because you provide us data. You have been providing data within the recent 4 years, and shortly we'll have data for 2023 inputted. So the ministry team and the project team have chosen this tool because it is flexible and easy to use and allows evidence-based decision-making. You already know that apart from these years that are here, we can actually select and visualize data for different years. It has been also possible to include data that we had in stock as of the 1st January of the current year, as well as adjusted data in the course of the year. We see that at the end of 2022, we had over 13,000 children registered, but your volume of work is the ones who were there in the system at the end, at the beginning of the year, and those who have entered the system in the course of the year. All these indicators, all the data from CR 103 form have been inputted in this application based on the aggregations that by gender, by residence, and by age. And we can see share. Not only the share, but also the absolute numbers. Apart from that, we can select a district, because these are data for the entire country. But we can choose what district we're interested in, and then we're going to see, well, I've chosen Chisinau, the capital. But at the same time, it's possible to choose not only one administrative territorial unit, but several at the same time. So now you see that the map shows us the 3 selected districts, and when we bring on the mouse, we can see all the data for that particular district. So it is important to see not only the absolute numbers, but also the share of children in the total population of children. So here we see that 2% of children, almost 2% of children, are in adversity at the moment. We can also see who have left the care system, and then we can see the reasons. Then, well, I have selected color rush in this case, so here we can see also children who have experienced the violence, including by course. So these filters help us analyze not only the indicator, but also the different dimensions. The content helps us navigate easily in these data. I'm sure that many of you have participated in developing alternative care indicators that have been institutionalized, and again we can see how data have changed within 4 years. I would like to draw your attention to the fact that this tool not only helps decision making by visualizing and analyzing data, but it has been mentioned already that there is no such thing as perfect data. And this tool allows us to improve data constantly. So because there is always something to add, something to improve. Even in this case, if you pay attention here, children in custody, this is specific to the Republic of Moldova. Over 28,000 children left without parental care because their parents are abroad. And of this number, almost 13,000 are in custody. And we'll have to work with local public authorities in order to improve these indicators. So we see that there are 113 children with disabilities and in extended family and 8 with the third persons. But actually there should be more. And we need to have this data updated constantly in order to be able to improve the decision making. It is not a problem to make mistakes. It is important to be aware of that and correct them. There are children in custody, but they haven't been classified as children with parents who live somewhere else. So this is a very useful tool. It seems a bit sophisticated at a first glance, but it is very user-friendly. There had been an effort by our colleagues, by the team and the colleagues from Washington, D.C. to make sure that this tool is functioning and adapted to our needs. And it is really helpful in monitoring the progress and measuring the results. Thank you. Thank you, Oleg. Thank you very much, Oleg. If there are any questions to Igor and Oleg on what they have presented, I have 2 questions, if I may. If the data from Power BI will help quicker visualization of data for decision making, and how data collected by social assistants, social workers, will help the child protection system. Thank you very much for your questions. I consider that this tool that is just a stage, a step towards the child protection information system. And these data that have been presented by my colleague Oleg will help you as well to visualize and to realize immediately where you need to focus more in order to have quality data, and in order for all the children from your district to be reflected in those statistics that the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection uses to make decisions for the benefit of these children. Because often, well, currently still, we encounter certain problems when we are planning financial resources, when we are planning creation of services and development of services, and when we use data presented by our colleagues from the territories. Sometimes they miss out a number or something, and that is not intentional, but it just happens, and that is due to the current reporting format, which makes it a bit more difficult to visualize data and understand whether everything is all right or not. Surely this solution will facilitate our work of all of us. Regarding the Child Protection Information System, Power BI and Power BI solution. As I have mentioned, the Child Protection Information System will be interoperable with other information systems, and it will include personalized data, but that system will also have an analytical module that will present all the data that we need to know. But we have to be frank. CER 103 will not disappear. I guess over 50% of this questionnaire will disappear, because all this system will be found in the Child Protection Information System. But certain data that surely will be improved, they will be available to you, and in order to be able to fill out the remaining questionnaire, and that will help us a lot in consolidating the child protection system. Thank you. Igor, Oleg, would you like to add to the issue of data quality? Yes, the question referred to the data quality as well. Believe me, just like last year, during training that actually will be repeated regarding the data collection in Excel sheets. So, and I would like to congratulate you, because there are districts that have already started using Power BI, collecting data not only on refugees but also on the social passport of the district, including demographic data and other data, not only from the social protection system. And you are sending us data on a weekly, monthly basis, and using a free version. So if you have noticed, there are these keys that have an automated calculation function. So these tools are very useful, and now together with the ministry we are developing we are working on developing this application. So there will be constant improvements in the future. Thank you very much, Oleg. Are there any other questions to our colleagues? Please. I have the following question. The Child Protection Information System, will it follow the path of the child? Because we know that often there is duplication of data. Thank you very much for this question. Surely, when we have a possibility, we're going to discuss in more detail about these child protection information system, and will tell you everything related to the module, to the path of a child through this information system, because actually this is the purpose of this information system, in order to track the child's path through the system. Why do we need this system? Because we would like to see whether the child's well-being is ensured and how. Who is doing that? How the system or the interagency mechanism works. So from the moment of commissioning the system and registering all the children in it, we're going to track all the steps and all the actions taken by the community social workers, by the child protection specialists, by all the representatives of competent authorities who have access to the system, to input data, to change data, to update the child's files. The entire path stipulated in the case management, there will be a separate module for case management, and we'll see everything. And you will also have a possibility to see whether your actions are aligned with the legal framework. I won't be talking about the child protection forms and deadlines stipulated in our legislation. There will be also other modules, and we will tell you more about it at an information session and during trainings, because apart from the 4 pilot districts, we are going to cover the entire country and all the territorial social assistance divisions, in order to make sure that every decision maker who has is aware and realizes the extent of responsibility that they have when they use data and then make data-driven decisions. Thank you, Camilla, for reminding me. But there is a secret little bit. You want me to tell it now? I'm joking. Dear colleagues, surely the system is going to be interconnected with the other information systems, and it will be working with internet connection, without. But of course, we are not going to stop there when we develop that information system according to the current concept, with case management, with the analytical module, adoption module, etc. We have seen the best practices in other countries, like Romania, for instance, when that child protection specialist or the community social worker who is in charge of assessing the family and the child and go in the field. So how it happens here? You go there, you fill out questionnaires, you assess, then you come back to your office and you input data into CS, and then the system suggests decisions. In Romania, those who are on the front line, they have the tablet on them when they go in the field with the application installed, and they can fill out the beneficiary's file on the spot. And then this this data is synchronized and is automatically inputted in the system. Of course, we still have work to do in this sense in order to bring in advanced technologies in the child protection sector, but we have to start with the first step. We need to launch the information system, to make it available to you and accessible for you, and then we are going to work on its continuing improvement. Thank you very much, and I would like to clarify that the information system is currently being piloted in 4 districts, and in the first part of the next year it will be scaled up at the national level. Thank you very much, Igor and Oleg.
And now I'd like to get to the last session of this morning slot of our fair. We talked about international best practice with Alex. We talked about the way data help to make decisions at the national level. It was Igor who gave you tons of examples. Now let's go on and see how data review and use of data is done at local level. I'll ask here our colleagues, Natalia Semeniuk and Viorica Toarta. They actually have accompanied these processes at the local level of data review and data use. Natalia will talk about the processes that took place in the districts we worked. Viorica will give you specific examples of decisions made in the favor of the child. Thank you. Hi, I see so many familiar faces. I will talk about a process which maybe you know, and we could go through it together so that you see that everything we've done with you, these are clearly stated processes. Let me start by showing you the big progress we've obtained. During the project, we have supported 25 territorial social assistance structures in the processes of data review and use. We've organized 98 meetings with 1,462 people involved, both from territorial structures for social assistance, but also your partners, those from education, health, public order, local public authorities of level 1. The process of data review is done in 3 stages, and you see them here now. We talk about the stage of preparing the meetings, facilitation of meetings, but also the stage of implementation of activities and their monitoring. I will quickly go through them. Preparation of meetings. This is technically, we organize technically and logistically the meetings. We identify the topics, and we prepare and we analyze data in order to do data review and use for easy decision making. The participants in the meeting, this is very important to see who needs to participate in the meetings. Each has to be responsible so that meetings are efficiently organized. Agreeing the way we organize and conduct meetings, as well as development and dissemination of the agenda to you a couple of days before, so that we can prepare the process. The staff from the SAS is the key, and we call them core team. Head of department, deputy head, specialists in the child protection, supervisors. And at the meeting, we invite other partners who are related to child protection. I mean, decision makers, those who make decisions from education, deputy head in the social issues, public order, health. Participation of decision makers in the meetings was essential to promote decisions to the benefit of the child, because people hear from the first source what are the issues they face, what needs to be adjusted, what needs to be proposed to the advisors or counselors, to be improved. Every stakeholder has its own responsibilities. The representatives of the National Agency for Social Assistance, they contribute to the facilitation, methodological support of the processes, planning and organizing the processes. The representatives of the territorial structures for social assistance, they plan, agree, convene, and facilitate the meetings. And of course, in all of this, we have a focal point. This is the link between these structures who invited participants to the meeting, distribute agendas so that the process runs very smoothly. We had a role in the process by helping you to organize these meetings and help you, guide you through questions in order to see what the data that you collect are showing. Agreeing the way we convene and organize meetings. Every time we called you and asked you when is the best time to organize the meetings, and we would establish the time of. So we took into account the periodicity of data collection, the period of planning, and budget amendment in terms of reporting. When you report data regarding children, both at the national, district level, so that these meetings are supporting you, but we don't want them to be a burden on you. And we're talking about two things here. Agenda. We distributed the agenda to you, and here we come with two agendas. One is a standard agenda for the introductory meeting, because this is more special, which lays the foundation of the process. We'll talk about some general concepts regarding the analysis and use of data, and a standard analysis of the meeting itself, of data review. You can see here on the slide a reference to it. More information, more details. You can look at the methodological guide, data review and use of data, developed by our colleagues Camelia and Viorica. The second stage from the process of preparation of meetings is identification of the priority subjects for discussion. And here we talked about those barriers in the use of data, as well as what would be the priority questions of interest on child protection subjects that you would like to discuss, that you would like to find out more about from these meetings. Identification of barriers. We talked about the organizational barriers related to the priorities of the management, roles and responsibilities of each and everyone involved in the process. Technical barriers related to the equipment, indicators, data systems, behavior indicator, knowledge, skills, motivation of the staff, and also, of course, all of these barriers, they are influenced by external factors related to the cultural, political context and the social norms. On the next slide, you see models, examples of questions of interest which have been extracted from the meetings that you participated in. For instance, what is the profile of the children in adversity? What is the ratio between the beneficiary of foster care, foster care, second level, the profile of children with disabilities? So it's a whole lot of questions. To prioritize these questions and to see where do we start from, we used some indicators in order to see which of them is more important. And you see, look here, it's about the programmatic relevance. If this question is relevant, and each of these indicators would have ranking. If its maximum relevance is 4, moderate 3, small, low 2, and inexistent 1. Another indicator is actionability. So if the answer to the question can be transformed into a specific action, and if your institution, does your institution have the power to act, the ease with which you can answer the question. If it's possible to answer the question with existing data that you have, or if you had to collect additional data and refer to other studies or collect high quality data so that you can understand how big the problem is. Another indicator is urgency. How urgently did you, how quickly should you respond to the question, immediately, or can it be postponed? So subject to these indicators, we started the analysis of the questions. The last stage of the preparatory meeting is the preparation of the data review and use. Collection of data. What data, disaggregations we have there. So we will discuss and see what are the available sources, whether available data are enough, or do we need other information to collect, and if there are other sources of data available in order to answer the question. On this slide, you can see some examples of data review. So the data were transformed in questions of priority interest, and then to be analyzed with you, because in such a way it is easier for them to be perceived. It is easier to talk about these diagrams rather than, Excel format or figures just put on paper, which is not very friendly. Another stage of the process of the data analysis meetings is the process of facilitation of the meeting, which covers 5 sub-stages: discussing progress, review data quality, review data, identification of problems, establishing targets, reconfirmation of questions of interest for the next meeting, and conclusions, and agreeing the way we can optimize next meetings. Any meeting, if you remember, starts with the progress we've obtained from the previous meeting. And myself, Verika, we will always asking you, what's new? What's the progress from the previous meeting? Measures taken to improve data quality and their use, and discussing the challenges and the problems faced and possible solutions. The data were reviewed together with you from the point of view of comprehensiveness and data accuracy. We identify problems of quality and what needs to be done so the data are high quality to be able to make decisions based on data. Stage 3 is data review, problem identification, and coming up with optimum solutions. Anytime the discussion in the meeting was guided by the following questions: what do these data show to you? What surprises you? What do you think you need to review still, so that you have a very clear answer to the question? The discussions would be guided so that you would find solutions for each of the issues you identify, and we will come up with a small action plan so that you yourselves would be able to track the progress. Stage 4 was reconfirmation, and developing the questions of interest for the next meeting. Would come back to the initial list of questions and see what questions would rank the best, and we will discuss it in the next meeting, and we were discussing about the data necessary to prepare the answers, data collection, as well as preparation of the review, of the use. Stage 5, conclusions, agreeing ways to optimize next meetings. We would together set the new date of the meeting and time frame for data presentation so that you are able to prepare for the meeting. And, together agree how the meeting is going to take place. And the last stage of the process, of this big process of these meetings, is the implementation of agreed actions. Here we're talking about dissemination of protocols and of minutes, and implementation. Well, each meeting was put into a very short note where you would write the key topics discussed, recommendations and decisions made by the team, and the processes related to the materials from the meeting. They were disseminated by all of you. Monitoring the implementation of decided actions, we would come to you with reminders what has been done, how it was done, so that we would see what is the progress to be able to discuss it at the next meeting. And all of this progress we would put into a certain format so that we would keep track of all the actions that you wanted to realize. So out of all these actions that you wanted to do, my colleague Verika will show you how many beautiful things you have done in the area of child protection based on data that we have reviewed. Thank you. And we have a question. After we have gone through all the processes, stage by stage, step by step, in every social assistance territorial structure who wanted to work with us, what were the outcomes? What was the result of all of these efforts? That was quite a long term. We tried to make a joint analysis, and we have seen that there were positive accomplishments which have influenced working processes of the territorial social assistance structures. We've had positive progress which was had its reflection on the services expressed by developing new services and extending existing services. All right, so if you look at the outcomes at the process level, we can say the following. The procedures, the working procedures of the TSAS have been improved, which are confirmed through such activities as discussing the issues related to the quality of data in the regular supervisory meetings, as well as during the annual reporting meetings. We can also say that some districts have continued these meetings of data review and use, and at some meetings we, the project team, we were invited as observers to see how these meetings are unfolding with social community assistance. Also, the data in the annual report CER 103 were being introduced with the application of the new guidelines approved by the ministry, which were adjusted and based on your proposals. Also, social assistance became more aware of the need to provide high-quality data which cannot be obtained if there is no good communication with the local guardianship authorities and members of the multidisciplinary team. We have strengthened the capacities and the skills of various stakeholders from the community who are working with children and in the area of child protection system. We have improved the capacities of the local guardianship authorities and the social community officers to work with data on children in adversity and children with immigrated parents. Now, the capacities of social workers, social assistants were improved in using Excel, COBO, including the IT system child protection, which is now being piloted, so that when it will be launched at the national level, until then you could remedy all of the differences, the gaps which can hamper the good functioning of the system. The use of data also allowed districts with whom we worked to better estimate the number of potential beneficiaries and the resources necessary to cover them with resources. Also, we have strengthened the capacities both of social workers as well as of its members for the prevention of risk of child separation. And not least, we have developed skills of parents and carers who are also part of the protection system. At the services level, the outcomes were very tangible. In the pilot districts, we have created 18 new social services. 124 existing services have been extended, having the possibility to cover more than 4,000 children. Here you can see the extended services, their typology, and the services that have been created. We've also noticed that the access of children to different forms of protection has increased. It's personal assistant, getting their own custodian, and we've increased the access to the foster care compared to residential care. Here we have some examples of how the situation has changed from one year to another, and how the access of children to protection through custody has increased in different districts. And here also it is very visible, this visualization, which shows you how in the districts that we worked in, how the level of coverage of children with disabilities has increased, how this level has increased.
Another example is how access of children has been improved, access to family-type care services, and the share of children in residential care has gone down. All these outcomes have materialized in various information resources in order to be stored in the institutional memory, including within the Restart reform. Here on this slide you can see only some of those materials that we have developed jointly with you, like documentary analysis of current practices in data examination and use, data review and use. So we have gathered international practice and best practices, because Moldova is not in this separate context, so it is connected. We have developed a guide that has been posted both on the D4I website and also on the website of the National Agency for Social Assistance. It will be updated and published on the ministry's webpage. Two national newsletters of the National Social Assistance Agency have been developed, as well as 6 district-level newsletters, 3 of which were presented at the first Share Fair festival, and another 3 today. So this has been the results, the outcomes, and if you have any questions, I encourage you to ask them. Thank you very much, Natalia and Viorica. It has been an enormous effort in 25 districts that cover 74% of Moldovan population, with extraordinary results achieved. Natalia very briefly summarized the processes, and Viorica has presented the results. Do you have any comments or questions based on what my colleagues have presented? Anna from Chisinau. Actually, I do not have any questions, but I have a comment, because in Chisinau municipality there is the largest number of registered children and families in adversity, and there is a large range of social services to meet the needs of these families and children. So my comment is, I would like to thank those who have guided us, who have helped us to realize how the need for data review and use. With your assistance, now, those notes that we draft to argue a case the need to create, to develop a social service are more quality and more justified and more and designed in such a way that they are understood by all those who read them. Thank you very much. Thank you, Anna Besobrazova from the Municipal Department for Child Protection. Anybody else would like to say something? Or we're already looking forward to lunch. But before the lunch break, I would like to invite you once again to visit our mini gallery of good practices, where 3 districts and Chisinau municipality are showcasing some of their achievements based on data review practices. Also, we would like to invite you to participate in the interactive quiz. Dan, please raise your hand for everybody to see you. Dan is going to guide you in this process. It is interesting to see how you can read data, how you can generate graphics, diagrams. You just need to choose an answer option. Also, because we are also doing our best to be mindful of the environment, we haven't printed out the presentations to put them in your folders, but all the participants will get these presentations by email after this event. Also, would like to invite you to pick up information materials at the exit from this room, national and regional newsletters and other types of information materials. The first statistical compendium on monitoring of the rights of persons with disabilities is also there. Thank you very much, and enjoy your lunch, and we'll come back at 1:30 in the same room for the most spectacular part of our festival, and namely Data Gala, the national competition of data use promotion, and we will award the winners as well as participants in this first national contest in this field. couple of words in relation to the competition, where we got the idea from, what were the criteria for eligibility and evaluation, who was part of the jury. After that, we will announce the winners and also the other teams who had applied. So the goal of this first national Data Gala competition, promoting good practices in the benefit of the child, was the following: to promote the culture of data use to inform best decision making. All the territorial divisions of social assistance across the country were eligible to participate, both those who were supported and who weren't supported by the Data for Impact project. So any territorial social assistance division could apply and participate. Regulations were drafted and presented in October. The deadline for applications was December the 3rd, right? No, November, sorry. The 3rd of November. The evaluation criteria were the following. The first criteria referred to the relevance of the identified problem based on data and decision made to solve that problem. So the first criteria was about the relevance. The second criteria was about the impact of the decision made based on data on the life of children who were targeted by that decision or their families. The third evaluation criteria was about the sustainability, to what extent the decision had a sustainable impact on the children, community. And the fourth evaluation criterion was about transferability. That is, to what extent such a decision and the following actions could be useful and used in other contexts for other children and in other communities. So the evaluation criteria were as follows: relevance, impact, sustainability, and the transferability potential. And of course, we cannot have a competition without the jury. The jury consisted of a representative of the Ministry of Labour and Social Protection, Igor Kishka, who is standing next to me. Let's applaud him. Then another member of jury was Anastasia Ocheredny, Madam Professor from the Moldova State University, who represented the academic environment, because we need to be thorough in our evaluation of applications. So we always have a representative of the academia in jury. Also, there was a representative of the civil society, Viorica Cojocaro, from APSCF, and also we wanted to have a practitioner in child protection as part of jury, and that one was Livia Solinka from Rushkain district. And because we needed someone from Data for Impact there, I also was part of the jury.
We received 8 applications, very interesting, which were about decisions made for various typology of children at risk. So these are children in adversity, children with disabilities, children whose parents are gone abroad, children who live in vulnerable social environments, in families in adversity. So a wide range of children. So children that are Ukrainian refugees. So the decisions were also very different, interesting, innovative, and also taken based on data. Now we want to present the three winners. So who ranks third? Who ranks third? I'd like ask Igor to announce and to see on the screen. All right. If you allow me, I'd like to thank you very much for having accepted this very innovative proposal to show what are your results through the applications presented to the jury. So when we all of us have examined these applications, they were full of heart, how important, you show the importance of what you're doing. Some came with some real examples, specific about, talking about specific cases, and this was so impressive. It was so impressive to see and analyze the figures and data. So, I'd like to thank a lot the teams of all territorial social assistance departments. And now, a word for the ranks third goes to Chisinau. Ms. Bezobrazova, this is a certificate from the DFRI and from us, Ministry of Labor and Social Protection. So, and the application is called the situation of children in the social services system from Chisinau. Congratulations to you and your team. It's a big one. It's a big award. It's a big present. This is a magnetic whiteboard. It's very useful for presentations and it's good for working sessions. You could take it after the end event. It's big and heavy. Congratulations, Anna and the team of Chisinau Municipality. When we did the training with the Camellia, I was telling you that I was calling on you, urging you to apply, to send these applications because we thought with Camellia that any involvement must be motivated. So we thought about such a small presence, which for sure will help you all in your day-to-day activity. And specifically after January 1st, when the restart reform will be started. All right, let's go on. Ranking second. Ludoteca, a safe and protective space. Congratulations to you and your team. And for you and your team, again, congratulations. We'll give you a TV, a smart TV, which can be connected to internet. It's here. Hi, colleagues. I said before this event, I told Camellia that due to the project, I fall in love with data. Indeed, so much was done. We are at the stage when social workers themselves input the data into the COBO system, and all of the information is seen in real time. And when we've applied to this competition, indeed the whole team worked, education department, police, social workers. We decided to apply to this competition and have this beautiful project. Thank you. Congratulations, Aurica. I hope the Ștefan team also in the composition that you've mentioned with the colleagues from police, education, health, you will use this present and you'll do data use. All right, this application is about children, refugees from Ukraine. So I was telling you that it's a whole range of issues and children that are vulnerable. Congratulations again, Aurica and the team from Ștefan. Okay, who is the big winner? The best, impressive, is Don Dușeni, access, inclusion and socialization. Congratulations. Congratulations to you. The application is called Access, Inclusion, Socialization. What is it about? If you can tell us, what is it about? It's the protection of children with disabilities. Fantastic. And it has a huge impact that the mobile team had on the lives of these children, and the application has a very emotional story of a child who benefited from the services. Congratulations. And so the colleagues who were on this team, Ala, the head of the department, Daniela, deputy head of department, Christina, she is a specialist in the area of child protection, Valeria, she is the manager of the mobile team service, Elena, she is the manager of support for families with children, Tatiana, manager of personal assistance department, she is social community assistance manager, and Natalia, manager of foster family service. Congratulations to you all. This is easier to handle. This is a high-end video projector. Congratulations to Don Dușeni. So, I was saying that there have been other 3 territorial social assistance structures. They have applied, and I would like to acknowledge them, to give them a certificate of attendance, and also I'd like them to I'm talking about Orhe. Thank you for the effort.
Felicitări încă o dată și dumneavoastră.
Congratulations to you. You had very convincing applications. Thank you for the effort you made. Thank you for how you work with kids and how you use data. This time, other 3 were better than you and more convincing than you, but you did a great job. Thank you. Congratulations.
Let's please come back. I would like to have a picture.
Toți împreună.
Ministrul dumneavoastră.
Mulțumesc, stimați colegi.
Thank you. Dear colleagues, as I mentioned from the very beginning today, I'm very proud that on a daily basis we contribute to improving the child protection system in the Republic of Moldova. Thank you very much for that. Okay, let me also thank everyone who has come to Chisinau to participate in this festival, and those from Chisinau who have joined us. I hope that we are going to have the third festival. I'm not sure whether our project will still be around in the Republic of Moldova, but I would like this tradition to continue, and it would be great to have the third festival next year. Well, I think that as representatives of the government, we can make this commitment to have the third and the fourth festival, because this is a good tradition that was launched last year, and it will continue. With the support of our development partners and your support and of everyone, we are going to continue doing beautiful things in Moldova. I also would like to thank our colleagues from the Pro-Imagine company, Aliona, Victoria, and the editors, the logistics team. Thank you very much. And I would like to thank the Pedagogical University Ion Kranga that has hosted us here in the future classroom, and also I would like to thank our interpreters and translators. And at the end, let's repeat once again what we are going to do from now on. We are going to capitalize the power of data for the benefit of the child. And we're going back to our workplaces, and we will put up that logo on the wall to remember. Thank you very much. Goodbye, and have a wonderful weekend.
Vorba zic și eu, la revedere!